What's up, Melanated family? This is your boy Harrison from melanatedfathers.com and Melanated Fathers TV, bringing you another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, where we have in-depth conversations with individuals from our community and abroad that are passionate about what they do. They can be in entertainment, they can be a teacher, they can be a business owner, whoever it may be. We just like to promote passionate people. We like to promote forward thinking, and everybody can benefit from productive dialogue. So we like to have in-depth discussions. Also on the podcast, I touch on a few pertinent stories going on in our community. It can be with politics, it can be with religion, it can be with just a business owner starting something new. But I just like to keep the family informed on different things going on around them. And also on today's show, today's interview, I have two really special guests. Two really special guests who, along with other partners of theirs, have created an app designed to assist us with a lot of the issues we've been facing with the police. So I'm gonna bring them on in a minute. I'm extremely excited about speaking to them about their platform and what they've started. So let's get everything going here. Now, first news story that I wanted to touch on, something I had to touch on, because I'm here in Sacramento, California. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of what happened March 2018 in my city. A young black man by the name of Stephon Clark was killed in his grandmother's backyard. They were called to the scene. They said someone was vandalizing cars in the area. Come to find out, they chased the brother down. They ended up killing him. They thought he had a gun, but it was actually a cell phone. In that particular case, his children will receive $2.4 million in a settlement that was reached with the city of Sacramento. Now, his children won't be able to touch the money until they're between 22 and 25 years old. They're currently 2 and 5 years old right now, so it's gonna be a while before the young men are able to touch that money. And hopefully when they get those funds, they're able to start businesses or do something to make their life more suitable after going through such a tragedy. So I just pray for Stephon's family. When this situation took place in my city, there was a lot of people here that put time and effort into protesting, into marching, into going to the DA's office. Now, ultimately, even though I think this family deserves the money that they're getting, even more so than what they've received, I'm not happy with this result, because the officers in the situation were found not guilty of any wrongdoing. And, they're free to go and free to be with their families when this young man was taken away from his family. So another tragedy-based situation involving the police. My guest that I have on today, we're going to speak a little bit about that as well, because one of my guests is a retired police officer. So we'll be able to get in depth and get his ideals about some of these issues as well. But I think it's really unfortunate, man. I just pray for his family, and hopefully they can get through this tragic time. Now, another story that I want to touch on, somewhat on a brighter subject here. A sister by the name of Andrea Stevenson has created an online course for parents who want to teach their toddlers how to read and write. Now, Andrea Stevenson has an online course called Teach Your Toddler to Read Through Play. She created this because she was able to get her son to read full sentences by 18 months. He was spelling and reading by 21 months. He was writing the alphabet and numbers by 27 months. And he was doing multiplication by 36 months. Wow, right? That's amazing. So now she wants to help other parents do the same thing and make sure they're capable of doing it in a natural and playful environment that doesn't require flashcards. Now, in this course, she reveals how her son was able to read at a third grade level at 3 years old. She shows you the books that they read, the toys they played with, the videos that they watched. Now, Andrea has also written 2 books. She has one book titled Teach Your Toddler to Read Through Play, and another book titled Fun and Easy Ways to Teach Your Toddler How to Write. Each book contains over 130 activity and different tips, different resources that can expose your child to having fun while they're reading. So look, I made sure I mentioned this particular story because I'm a really, really, really big advocate of reading. I think all of us should take time out to read. It's really important we make our kids read just so they're able to comprehend, just so they can get more perspective on what's going on around them. I read an article some time back that referenced the fact a majority of the Black and brown brothers and sisters who are in jail, they link a lot of them directly with the fact that they can't read or that they can't write. So it is imperative to our development as people that we get comfortable with reading and enjoying it even, right? So everybody do me a favor, go to melanatedfathers.com, find the story about the Black mother who taught her 3-year-old how to read and write. That's what the story is titled. In the story, you'll see a link to purchase her books. You will see a link to the online course, which is free. The online course is free. So all my brothers and sisters out there, if you got a kid, if you know somebody that got a toddler, it's never too early to get them started with reading. I mean, this sister had her son reading full sentences by 18 months, right? So that shows us anything is possible. So please go to the website, look up Andrea Stevenson. Please support that sister, buy her books. Now, for the interview, I thought that it was really important that I bring these individuals on because if you're Black in America, melanated person in America, there's no way around the fact of what happens to us at the hands of police. There's been a lot of situations throughout history, a lot of situations recently that have happened, and we get upset about it. We protest about it. You know, people who are on social media, they're talking about it, and I'm with all that. I think we should express our outrage. There's nothing wrong with that. But me personally, I like people who move to action. They find a way to say, okay, I don't like what's going on in society. How can I carve out a niche for myself to make things better? How can I get with people around me and not complain about it, but actually do something about it? So the two business owners that I'm bringing on today have a corporation called Right There Corporation, and they're using technology to accomplish their mission of preventing police misconduct and reducing civil rights violation and making sure that there's justice for all. Now, the app will be called the RTC Protech App. They're still working on it, but I'm excited to bring on the podcast today Maria Watkins and Torrance Williams. How you guys doing today?
We're doing wonderful. Thank you.
Good. I'm happy to have you guys on the podcast today. And like I said, what you're doing with that app, Maria and Torrance, is extremely inspiring. And, you know, I'm just curious to know more about it. So let me get into it here. So I want you guys to tell everybody, you know, because I'm in Sacramento, California. I want you to tell everybody what part of the country you guys are from and what inspired you to create the Right There Corporation.
Okay, well, I'm Maria Watkins again, and I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And Torrance Williams, which is our board chairman and our retired police captain, he's in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're in the South, the deep South.
Okay.
Okay.
I figured that I wanted to make that point because I know, you know, being in California and dealing with police, dealing with racism, dealing with all these things, I think each coast you go to is just a little bit different. So I thought it was important to kind of point out that you guys are from the South. So go ahead.
Yes. And as well as what inspired us, or what inspired me in particular, because being the founder, is that I was really inspired by God to do something. And he gave me the idea of starting this app and having this app to do all these functionalities so that we can make a change. And what happened with me is that it made me realize that God is concerned about injustice acts,
Mhm.
and so that's what really started it. So as a result, we've been working on it ever since. And this happened in August of 2017. And
Mhm.
we've been building the framework, building the infrastructure to get to this place where we are now.
Got it.
So, but he's concerned about the injustice that's happening to, and have been happening to African Americans for a very long time. It's
Mhm.
historical. It's current. It's a problem that the next generation will have to deal with. So we wanted to do something to change it, to make it better, not only for this generation, but to generations to come.
Definitely, that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. Now, Torrance, being that
Yes.
you were in, being a police officer for so many years,
Right. Right.
I'm really interested to know what inspired you to get involved.
Well, basically, I think police work was just a way for me to learn more and to see more things. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama.
Hmm.
So as a child, I learned a lot and I was around a lot of people that were involved in the civil rights movement. Actually, one of the hardest things I had to do, believe it or not, was to tell my father that I had become a police officer.
Hmm.
That was real hard for me, because where I was from, when I saw the police, it was just common that I was going to run. That was the first thing I was going to do. No reason I was going to take off. Um, I became a police officer because I ended up when I came to the Metro Atlanta area, and Maria and I met over in the AU Center, and she's the closest thing I have to a sister. But I ended up working with a program called Reach Out Incorporated, which dealt with kids from high crime, low income neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And in doing that, that kind of gave me a passion for it. Now, Maria used to call me anytime she would hear about things that would happen involving the police that were negative, and she would try to get my take on it because she knew at that time I was a police officer.
Hmm.
And I would give her my opinion, and she would see some of the things I was saying, and then sometimes we go back and forth, and we do that today, even on the board. We're right there because
Of
they always
course.
say you still blue, and
Yep,
but
yep,
but
yep.
so a lot of times I used to explain to them, and they would explain to me to open my eyes about stuff that there's always more than one way to see things.
Hmm.
One thing I told her that as a police officer, and let me say this, and she kind of disagreed with me when I put my numbers out there. I used to tell her, I said 95% of police out here are good guys, and they go out and they protect people um, that they don't know, and a lot of times that hate them. That being said, that small percentage that do go out there and will do and that do the wrong thing, that's too many.
Hmm.
Um, the police department is like a microcosm of what society is, and these numbers may be wrong, but and I've read it somewhere. You got 17% of the people that's gonna do right all the time.
Hmm.
You got 17% of the people that's gonna do wrong all the time. And then you have the 64% of those people that's gonna follow whatever the crowd's doing, whichever crowd's bigger on what they're doing. That's
Hmm.
how society technically is, I think. And that's kind of how the police department is. And and it is what it is. One thing I've learned in policing, especially in being a supervisor and taking complaints is, and you hit on it. I'm glad you brought it up when you were talking about this young lady, Andrea Stevenson, about reading and writing and whatnot. One thing I found out as a supervisor, anytime, and it's sad but it's true, anytime somebody wanted to complain on police misconduct, they had a complaint on a police officer. If you told them, and I'm talking about my folks, people of color, if you told them and you had to do it, I need you to put it in writing. Okay, because that's what we do. We say, hey, I need you to put it in writing.
Hmm.
85% of the time, I'm telling you, the complaint's going away.
Hmm.
It is what it is because they don't want to write it. For the most part, people don't want to put it on paper because number one, they don't trust the police and stuff. And I
That's what I
got
was
that. They
going to
say
say.
you all protect each other. And I always give this example and stop me if I'm going too long, but I always give this example. I had a guy that made a complaint on an officer, one of my officers that was working an extra job. Actually, he was an officer, he was in the zone that I was in. And so the complaint came through us. And officer was working an extra job. The guy complained on the officer. Well, it was the officer's word against this guy's word. and we have 4 ways as complaints is going to go. Well, we couldn't sustain the complaint, which means we couldn't prove the complaint because it was this guy's word against what the officer wrote down and what the officer said. What ended up happening with the complaint was, and I use this when I used to talk to people on the street to get them, if you got something wrong, you need to say something. What ended up happening with the complaint was the complaint went into the officer's file, and that's where it sat, right? All right, 8 months later, 8 months to a year later, I hear a complaint comes across on the same officer at the same location where he was working this extra job. Okay, different complainant. All right, the sergeant comes to me. I'm sergeant supervisor. He comes to me and he said, you know, look, this is a complaint we have. It's on such and such an officer. It's the officer's word against this guy's word. So I asked him, I said, who was the officer again? And he told me who it was, and he let me know a little bit about the complaint. And it kind of, my memory started going, and I kind of remembered the complaint. I asked the sergeant, I said, well, Sergeant, did you check the officer's file? He said, I checked it, but I'll check it again. I said, do that. So he went back and checked the officer's file. When he checked the officer's file, he found the other complaint that was still in the file, even though it had not been sustained. But what it caused him to do, and he came back to me, he said, I think I'm going to have to go at this officer a little bit harder because that complaint looks a lot alike. I said, yeah, it does. So you might want to hit him with it and see where we go with it. Anyway, he went back, he questioned the officer, interrogated the officer, and the complaint ended up being sustained. It was sustained, which means the complaint was a good complaint, the second complaint. Now, had the first guy not made his complaint, that second complaint would not have been sustained because it was the same exact thing. He had nobody, he had no witnesses. We couldn't prove anything, but because we knew that was in that officer's file, we were able to go back and come from that point of view. Look, how'd you have the same thing happen with somebody else different, and your response is basically the same. So I encourage people to empower themselves. And when Maria came to me, and when Maria talked to me about this idea that she had, and we used to talk about it, I said, you know, that's a big thing. I said, the problem is, I said, our folks, number one, they need to be empowered. I say, we hear transparency all day long. And I said that this is the thing. I said, even in some of these supervisor classes I used to go to, the supervisor tells us, you know, when they're teaching the class, they'll tell us what we need to do. And I would stop, and at the break, I would go up to them and I would tell them one thing. I say, look, everybody in this class knows what we're supposed to do. You're not telling us anything. I say, the question is, will they do it? We know what people know what to do. So when she came to me and she mentioned this idea to me, which I thought was wonderful, and I thought it was great that she came up with it, or that it was given to her, because she's always had that passion for helping people. I said, man, this is something, this is where we need to go, because we need to empower our people. And that's what it's about, empowering our people. That's what the Right There app is about. It's about education, empower themselves, and keeping people calm. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to win an argument on the street when you're making the prosecutor, the judge, and the jury also. What you need to do is you need to survive that encounter, okay, so you can fight another day, okay? So and that's what Right There Protect app does for you, or Right There Protect the service does for you, because you know you have backup. If you don't know how to make a complaint, it can help you make a complaint. Now, at the same time, we're not out there to defend people that's doing wrong, but this is out there to make people think about what they're doing and think before you react. And I'll leave it at this: when the blue lights come on and you're in a car, the majority, when they see those blue lights, they feel inconvenience. You understand what I'm saying? But when people of color see those very same blue lights, they feel fear, because they don't know what the heck's going to happen. That's on that.
Now,
yeah, that's a good point.
And I have a question for you, Torrance. I have a couple questions for you, actually. So, what do you think that fear comes from?
I think a couple of things. It's what people have heard. It's what people have seen. It's the actions that they've seen and they've heard about. At the end of the day, people hear about. I can give you examples where officers went out there and did great stuff and saved people's lives and did things for people that you'll see every once in a while. You see somebody cutting somebody's yard. I've seen that hundreds of times. Okay, you see it reported one time. I've seen them do stuff for people. You might not hear about it, and you may hear about one time, but you are going to hear about those bad things that are going to happen. When I was a kid growing up, and that's why I had such a hard time telling my father I was going to be a police officer, because all I knew of police, all I had heard was that, look, you don't need to deal with them. You're going to be mistreated. One of my father's best friends was an attorney, Attorney Langford. He's dead now. He was one of Rosa Parks' attorneys. So I used to hear things about that. One of my cousins, Reverend Reese, who part of the Edmund Pettus Bridge now, is named after over in Selma because he stood arm in arm and he went through that. My father, W.J. Williams, went through it. So I used to hear that stuff from them. So it's what people have heard, what they know. When I used to go in neighborhoods as an officer and people see me and I would have my little mic, I let the little kids play on the mic. And the first thing parents would say, get away from that police car because I'm going to have them block you up. Some of it is what people learn, what they've seen. A lot of it is you do have, and let me say this, one bad incident is too many bad incidents. And we do know that our people, and I'll say this, our people don't get the big thing I say a lot of times, and that is benefit of the doubt. That's the biggest difference. Benefit of the doubt is the biggest difference.
Good. Okay. That's a good point you make because, and you mentioned earlier, that in your opinion, 95% of the officers are good officers. And that's your profession. So, I'm going to go with that number, but I have a question for you. So,
sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. I know you disagree.
I disagree also.
I know, Maria.
Well, let me ask you a question. And this is like from the other side of it, right?
Okay.
When a police encounter happens and someone kills somebody that does not have a gun, like an unarmed person.
Right.
It seems to me, and I don't know if this is a fact, it seems to me like other officers inside of the same police department or part of the same unit or whatever, even if they know he's wrong or if they feel he's wrong, they can't speak out about it. So when I hear the 95% number, I think maybe there's 5% that's bad, but if the other 95% know about the 5% and don't say nothing, that makes them just as bad.
Well, yeah, and so you have a point there because I used to always have a saying, if I do wrong and I fail to own up to the wrong that I do, I continue to do wrong still. So you're absolutely right on that. People talk about the thin blue line or the blue line, the blue shield, or not crossing that. Is it real? Yeah, it's real. Don't ask, don't tell. And again, I say the police department is a microcosm of our neighborhoods, of our communities. It's the same in the communities. Don't ask. If they don't ask me, I'm not saying anything. So you're absolutely right. And it does, and it is bad because of the fact that we are tasked with doing the right thing, even when it's not a popular thing, and even when it goes against our fellow, and I'll say your fellow brethren and whatnot. My thing is, and so I agree with you 100%. My thing is that and I wrote something the other day when I was talking to Maria, and I said to all my, and Maria was concerned. She mentioned something to me. She said, I don't know if you've thought about this, but you may catch it from both sides, is what she said. And I told her, I said, I appreciate that. I said, I've already thought about that. I said, but this is what I thought of. And I penned a little short letter. I'm not a writer, but penned a little short letters to my police brethren, okay? And to my police family. I say, at the end of the day, it's not about black, white, red, green, or blue. It's about right. Most law enforcement, and this is why I was writing it up, most law enforcement officers are good people. So let's be our better selves and do the right thing. Let's just do right, because people know what right is. So you're absolutely right. I know of situations, and I've known of situations where unless, just like on the street, unless you ask, you're not gonna get the answer of what's going on. Even though we may talk about it and say, somebody needs to, and it's just like, somebody needs to kind of put this guy in check, or we need to do this and we need to do that. But until you speak out, then it's no good. And so you are right. I agree with you. So I may have to change that. I do agree. I do agree with you that if you don't speak out, even if you're not the problem, if you don't speak out against the problem, technically you are part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because I think at this point, because I consider myself to be a pretty logical person when it comes to all situations, right? And I look at everything from my personal vantage point. So I've had great interactions with the police. I've been let go by police officers. I've been in the wrong more than one time, and a nice officer, one officer black, one officer white, let me go. But I've also lived in an economically deprived community,
right,
where the officers would come to my community and treat my brothers and the other young men around my community. They would treat them like animals almost.
right.
So I had to witness these type of interactions as well. But it's a good thing I have you on the podcast, brother, because I want to, get an idea from an officer who had to be in these meetings, in these buildings with all these men. And I'm sure it's different for you. Like, we have we're looking at it from the outside looking in, literally. So just to be able to talk to you about it, I appreciate that. Now, another question. I want to go into your corporation for a minute. Just looking at, I know with a corporation, sometimes you have to have a board of director or whatever, a board of directors. But I was looking at you guys' corporation, and to me, I was thinking just how beautiful it is that when we create things at times, how important do you think it is that we find like-minded individuals to collaborate with us or to come in it with us so we can make whatever we're trying to do that much bigger?
I think it's real important. And one of the things, like, I first talked to Torrance about this idea because I wanted the balance. And then I talked to some other people, and they are like-minded. Not only like-minded, but their heart is the same. That's the common thread of all the board members. They want to do something that's going to bring positive change to our community.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's got that same mindset and that same heart. So that's key. And I wanted a board of directors. I wanted to go with a corporation as opposed to an LLC because I wanted that accountability. I wanted us to bounce things. I wanted to bring the experts in that knew about building a business. We've got somebody that's got several patents that's on our board. He's done this before. His name is Kurt Garrett. And then somebody that's been in business a while. And then someone that's a serial entrepreneur. And so we got somebody in the college campus area because they see a lot of stuff. So I wanted to bring the experience in. I wanted to bring the right attitude, the right mindset, the right heart, because this is a very important work. What we're doing, like you were saying earlier, it's a lot of people that say some stuff, but it's time for action. And all of the people that's on this board and that we'll bring in even in the future is that it's about action. Now is the time. If we don't do anything about this historic and current problem of police misconduct and the whole idea of everybody not treating equally or not giving the benefit of the doubt, we're going to be in trouble, not only us, but generations to come.
Definitely.
And I sort of look at it. I can't look at it just right now because we got little kids we got to look at that's going to have that same fear, that same anxiety, that same perspective about police officers. We need to shift it. We need to change it. And
Definitely.
So, yeah, that's key for our board. We've got a very strong board, hardworking, and we're going to do the work because people are worth it. Yes, we need law enforcement. And and just like Al Sharpton said, we're not anti-police. That's not about that. That's why Torrance is on board, so we can keep it balanced. But when there's bad police officers in the mix and they're doing some degrading things to young Black men, young women, you know, Sandra Bland and some of the other. It's too expensive to deal with the bad police officers. It's too costly. It costs people lives, mental health situations, you know, that increase of anxiety and helplessness. We want to, like Torrance said earlier, we want to empower our people. And so bringing in that board was very key for me. Because we got the expertise there.
Now, Torrance, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I'm of the belief that a lot of our young children, and somebody looked at me funny when I said this, but I think we need more Black police officers. I think more young Black kids need to aspire to be a police officer, but also be fair. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
be
sir.
going to that profession with a fair mentality. How important or how effective do you think it would be if more of us took it serious and decided to go into law enforcement?
I think it would be very effective. I think it would be ground changing. The thing is, officers, and I would always say this, and I learned this, policing taught me a lot, an awful lot. It made me appreciate things I wouldn't appreciate it. But one thing I learned, and a lady in the community said, and she said it best, I never will forget. She says that our police need to be a part of our community. And she told the truth on that, because at the end of the day, at one time I was a precinct commander, and one of the biggest pains I felt, other than having a couple officers killed, and that was pain, but one of the biggest pains I felt, I went to this meeting, and it was a meeting in this particular area was predominantly Black precinct, predominantly Black neighborhood, and a lady stood up and she said to me that she was afraid to come out of her house in the evening time and when it started to get dark. That hurt me. It really hurt me to my core. That hurt me when she said that. And I promised myself then, another woman, another one of my folks will never feel that way again. My thing was, and some people liked it, some people hated it, but I will say this, and I wish I had some of my folks on here. They might not have agreed with what I did a lot of times, but they respected what I did, because, and I'm talking about the community now, because they knew I always tried to look out what was best in the community. Now, my philosophy was, and some people liked it, a lot of people didn't. I thought that people should feel one of three ways when you came into my area of actually that part of the county that I was in. Number one, I wanted to make it a place where good people felt it was a good place to live, work, play, and worship. Number two, I wanted anybody that came there to do the wrong thing to feel very uncomfortable. Number three, I wanted to lower crime. And number four, if you were coming there to do the wrong thing, you needed to, and this may be a bad thing, but you needed to feel fear if you came on that side and you weren't going to do the right thing, because we were coming after you. And sometimes that meant playing with a heavy hand. So a lot of times, what I had to learn to do, and what most officers do, a lot of them, and what I did was, when you're dealing with good people, you take care of them, you treat them that way. When you're dealing with folks that are not so great, then you play with a heavy hand. One of the sayings I used to tell people is this, and you may or may not disagree with it, or agree with it, but what I used to tell people is this. I said, look, you can't bring a poodle to a pit bull fight, okay? Meaning, you can't be gracious around people that aren't so gracious. Now, I had a community one time, and they were complaining because they said, and this is what they complained about. They say, why do you talk to, and I would, why do you talk to those folks over there? Because you know they're doing the wrong thing. You know that they're wrong and whatnot, right? And there are some good people that do the wrong thing. But what my argument was this to them. I said, this is what I learned. I said, and forgive me, I hope this is not, but my saying was always this: crimes committed in hell don't have angels as witnesses. If I want to know where the wrongs are, I need to deal with those people that are wrong. Now, as far as to get back to your question, because I kind of digress, as far as young people becoming police officers, I encourage it. I will say this: if you're going to go into it, I used to speak to a lot of young officers. You better be ready for what's going to come with it, because it is going to be life changing too for you. And what I mean by that is you learn to appreciate stuff. Okay, you learn to appreciate people, and you'll learn. And I'm sure you already do, but you also learn that no matter where you go, and you should learn this in life anyway, you could learn something from anybody. But you're also going to learn this: you're a police officer. Okay, when you're a police officer, and this is what I learned about my personal experience, and others may disagree. It's different when you're a police officer and everybody knows you're a police officer, because you go to that party, right? And people know you're a police officer. I guarantee you, when you walk into the room, everything changes. The whole conversation changes. Everybody gets quiet. Everybody watches what you do. So be ready for that. And I used to tell the young officers, those friends that you have now, you may not have them anymore, because they're not going to want.
You mean, no, I don't want to cut you off, but you mean being watched when you're off duty too?
Correct, because you own, technically, when you're a police officer, you're 24/7. People watch what you do. The department's going to watch, and your neighbors are going to watch you. So people treat you differently. Even if they know you, they tend to treat you differently. We need more Black police officers. We need more minority police officers. We need them to rise up. And this is the other thing. And I'll give an example. And forgive me for being long. I had one of the officers I worked with, one of the officers I supervised, Black officer. Okay. He was on a call with another officer. This particular officer felt that the other officer was treating the person he had a little bit harshly and doing something he really shouldn't have done with him. Okay. He calls me. He had my phone number. He called me on the phone. He said, "Sir, I need you to come here. Don't tell him I called you to come down." Because I used to go out on a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff on the streets. I like the streets. And I said, "Okay, I got you." So I went down to the location and I approached the officer. I said, "What do you have?" So he started to explain to me what he has and why this young man's in the backseat of this police car, right? And so as he's talking to it, and sometimes you just need to hear yourself say it, or sometimes your presence, whatever. As he's talking his way through it, telling me what happened, he said, "Well, I think what I'm going to do is everything changed. I'm going to give him a verbal one. I'm going to get him out the back of his car. I'm going to tell him A, B, C, and D." I said, "Yeah, I think that'll be the correct thing to do." And this goes back to what you're saying. Sometimes just the mere presence, it didn't have to necessarily be of someone having rank, but that other officer that was there, young Black officer that was there, and he told me, he said, "Look, I'm not going to argue with this guy in front of everybody. You know, that's not a bad look. Officer getting in an argument over something that's happening at the scene, right?" Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to argue with him in front of all these people out here. I've already tried to tell him, "Look, maybe you can come down here and let him tell you, and I'm sure he'll see the light," which is what happened. That's why we also need, like you said, other people of color in the community to do that, because it keeps, even if you're thinking about going wrong, you kind of straighten your path out. The other side of it, and lastly but not least, the police department, to a certain extent, sometimes is almost like a sports team, if you know what I mean. And I'm sure if you've ever played sports, you get to know people in spite of where they're from or what the differences are, because you learn that you have a lot more in common than you actually have separate. And all of a sudden, people start to see you, and then they start kind of equating one with the other. Okay, you're like this, and this is what you are, and this is how it is. People start equating stuff, and you can kind of educate each other to a lot of stuff, because at the end of the day, in police work, if you haven't ever been been around people of color, I would say, or in communities of color, and the only thing you know about people of color is what you experienced while you were policing. Okay. Now, Harrison, when do people call the police not to say, "I'm having a great day"? If they're calling the police, they're having a bad day. Something's going wrong. They're doing something wrong, or they're doing something right, and they're being a victim of something. No matter how great a person that is, they're not in a good mood when the police arrive. Am I correct?
Very true. Very true.
All right. So if that's all you get when you deal with people, that's the only experience you have with people, then your the way you look at them is somewhat different. because nobody says, "Hey, officer, I'm having a great day." When you get there, something's going wrong, no matter how great a person they are, and so they're not in a great mood. So it changes. The more you can be around people and you realize the similarities you have, then you kind of change the way you act, and you change the way you see things, and you can kind of educate people on stuff. And
Yeah.
so that's my take on that.
Now, another question I have for you, Torrance. Another question I have for you.
Sure.
How does it work? Because you just made a good point as far as some officers not having any interaction with a black person unless they're working. How does it work when it comes to how an officer is assigned? Why isn't an officer assigned to a neighborhood he's familiar with? So when the people see him, they'll say, "Hey, that's Tony or Tommy or whatever." That's, they're not gonna look at him like an outsider if he's actually from the community.
Well, I think it's a couple, and that would be wonderful on one hand, and not so good on another hand. Okay.
Okay.
On the one hand, it would be good because the officer knows the community, and the people in the community know him. On the other hand, it could be kind of rough on the officer, not so much the community, because the community is going to expect certain things out of him, and they're going to kind of pressure him, even in communities where you don't know people. Okay. Give an example. Okay. I have somebody I'm dealing with in this community. I don't know them, but they look just like me, right? They're as wrong can be. Brother, can't you give blah 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 blah? And you get that all the time, and then don't do what they don't want you to do. Then all of a sudden, well, let me see the white officer or the white side. I'll give you another example. I worked in the precinct that I was the commander in was a majority black precinct, correct? Okay, had great relationships with the community, great relationship with the people. They tell me a lot of stuff off record, because one thing I learned is people will give you information all day as long as you don't disclose where it comes from. Okay, and they give you good information. But one thing I remember dealing with somebody that didn't know me in the community, and I've just come out on the scene. I'm with some other officers, and one of the people walk up to one of the sergeants on the scene and started talking to him because they assumed because he was a Caucasian that he was the one in charge. So he looks over at me. He get ready to send him over to me because he's not. I waved him off and just go ahead and do your due. But it could be hard for, imagine you having a referee a game with your kids and your relatives playing another team. If that makes sense, because they kind of look at you funny. So it could be good for the community. I think that the officers should feel like they are a part of the community, and I think that's why those relationships are very important. I think it's very important. And I'll say this, Harrison. One thing that almost brought tears in my eyes, and it shouldn't have, because I wasn't used to it. I'm out on the street and I'm working like everybody else, even though I'm a supervisor and stuff. And I did something normal, just normal course of business, right? Just a normal thing. And a person looked at me and they said, "Thank you." That blew me away. It blew me away because I had never heard it before.
Really?
They looked at me and I heard everything else. I've been called everything else in the book, or you doing this and you doing that, and you ought to be ashamed of this, and you profiling, you doing this, you doing that. But I had never heard anybody say that before, and it blew me away.
Wow.
Just because they said it, and it touched me so much because I was like, wow, I can't believe that had that effect on me. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
How many years were you in when that actually happened?
Probably about 20 or 25.
Oh, man, so you mean in 20 years, you go to a house, you help somebody out, even if it's small or big, and nobody said thank you?
I mean, it's our job. So I didn't expect to hear it. Okay, I never expected, but yeah, because as people say, it's your job. It's like I had a debate with the wife, and she was saying, in my family, in my house family, looking at something happened as far as officers concerned, and I think the officer took some kind of drastic measures and stuff. And I said, well, you know, officers are put in these situations, and that's why the courts kind of cut them slack on some of this stuff because they're put there. And what she said, and even my daughter said, she said, but that's what y'all do. That's what y'all signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, but I ain't signed up to get killed either. So, and we've had, and that's the thing, when Maria put this board together, and she put right there together, and she picked her board, it was a wonderful thing. Yeah, we have, and she said it best, we're like-minded on a lot of stuff, but let me tell you, we have some debates sometimes because they'll come at from the other side, and I'm on this and we'll see what, you know, what we're talking about or where we are, and that's what makes it good, because you can you understand, okay, you have to look at things from all angles and not just one to see what's going on, so you understand a little bit better.
Definitely. Now, Maria, and both of you guys can answer this, but I'll ask you first, Maria. When I was reading through the different functions the app will have, I thought everything was necessary. But when you look at like the video recorder aspect, talk to me about how the video recording on your app will possibly help us a little differently, because as we know now, having an officer on camera doing something wrong to us doesn't necessarily mean that information or that video will be used to convict them or whatever. So will there be something different about your recorder, or is it a matter of your recorder being combined with the other things on the app will make it effective?
Well, I think it's actually having the video combined with everything else, because the app itself is the product, and then we'll have services as well. So we have a more comprehensive plan to combat police misconduct and other possible dangerous situations. Now, 2 extra items we'll have other than the software that includes the audio, video. We'll send out alerts to whoever you put down as your emergency contact person. Those people would know that you're being stopped, where you're located. We have the GPS working with it as well. So, and then we also have a call center. So an alert will be sent to your emergency contact person and also the call center. We have the attorney referral network. So we've got attorneys working with us as well. Now, there's 2 other products that go with this app. And one of them is a high definition camera that will work with our software to sort of give us a little bit more leverage, as well as the video part of it. And because that's what we need. And then that video belongs to you. A lot of times what we see on, you know, in court and everything is an observer basically of, you know, videoing you, you know, and that's really up to them whether they release that information or not. But with us, with this app and with our video recording, it belongs to you. We save all that information from the entire event, from the time you're stopped to the time that you are released. Another alert is sent out if you're actually arrested. So you get a lot more information. You got somebody behind you. We're right there really to protect you. That's right there. And so, and we also have a wearable device where if you're not in your car, and you had mentioned the young man that was shot at his grandmother's, you're at home walking around in your bag, you still have access to that same information. You may not have the high definition camera in your car, but you'll have a wearable device that you can use, your grandmama can use, because not everybody have the Apple or the Android. So we wanted, so 3 things, backing up. You've got your software with the app. Okay, we do video, audio, GPS, alerts sent out. You got the whole back end of Right There Corporation. That's another good time. Another good thing is that you'll have some discovery information if you have to go to court. We also assist, like Torrance was talking about earlier, we also assist with getting those complaints out. That's going to be huge because of what he said. A lot of people just won't write it down. And probably most minorities, not only just Black, but probably Hispanic as well. Now, this app is going to be in both English and Spanish. So with all those components, and there's a couple other things I'm not going to mention right now because they're proprietary, you know, other stuff. But we're the full package, if I can say. So a person that's standing before a judge or or in court trying to, fight their case, they'll have possibly one of our attorneys at their disposal. And they've got right there corporations sort of backing them up. I think that's going to make a huge difference when we talk about increasing that police transparency and accountability. And so I think that's going to help a lot, because they'll have more than just a video. They'll have right there, to help them as well.
You'll be right there.
We'll be right there. We'll be right
Hence
there.
the name. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, guys, because I was wondering how everything was gonna work, but it seems like you guys have a whole setup there.
It's the totality. It's the totality, and that's what it takes. If you've ever been to court before, it's always the totality. Because when you hear these people that have videos, and it is true, it's always, but you didn't see what happened before, or you didn't see what happened after. It's the whole thing. When you have all of that together, and then you have everything that and it forms. It's like putting a puzzle together. You have all these pieces together. Now they make sense. If that makes and as far as the members or the subscribers are right there, it's just remember, you're not by yourself, so you don't need to try to fight this battle out here by yourself. Just be smart. You want to go home, and you go, if it needs to be fought, or if there was some wrong being done, you got somebody on your team, just like you said, right there with you. At the same time, it reminds you, now don't you go acting a fool either. Okay, so
exactly,
and I'm gonna add this, Harris. Yeah, it works both ways, and I have to add that because it does work both ways. So it is in my opinion, I'm hoping it helps not only those persons, not only Black, but people of color or disenfranchised is what I call it. People that disenfranchised, but it also helps the officer, because I've talked to, believe it or not, I've talked to several officers in reference to this, and without all of them said the same thing to me. They say, that's needed. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And if anybody, and I had an officer tell me yesterday, as a matter of fact, if anybody will come after you, if any officer, because we talked about some of the ramifications, and he said something to me that, and I thought about it. I said, you're right. He said, if anybody's gonna come after you for doing right, then we need to look at them. And I said, yeah, you got a point there. But like I said, I've talked to a lot, and they may or may not say it on record, but I've talked to them, and they're like, man, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that's what what's good.
Yeah, and I just want to add that one of the things we really want to do is, we'll have a decal, the user will have a decal on the back of their car that they're being protected by RTC. And then we're going to have some outreaches to the police, and Torrance will probably end up doing a lot of the outreach, and to where we want them to know that we're here and nobody's coming to our rescue. We're providing this through our community. This is us. This is what we're doing, and just let them know that that somebody else pretty much is watching. You've got your camera, which is great, but they have some empowerment as well. And so, and I think that's really important. So we're at the pre-launch stage of everything. We've got everything ready to go. We're just at the stage where we need to raise the capital and raise more capital. We're the second round of funding right now. So I would love to see our community step in and do a Popeyes moment and raise money to do this for our community, and support us in that way. And I do believe that we can make a difference. And I keep pushing this. I say it over and over. I don't care. But it's not only for now, but it's for the future. Because I don't want our kids to feel what we felt for years when we saw a police car. Like Torrance said, for other people, it's inconvenience. But for minorities, it's I don't know what's going to happen. So is it good and bad? Well, something, in so full of anxiety and fear. And then with the atmosphere of hate that's around here, we can not only use this app, a user and a subscriber can use this app for if they have a police encounter, but if they have another type of encounter, whether it's on the college campus, whether it's, whether you're at a party, whatever, you can activate your app by voice, or press the information in. So you can use this app. Not only, that's what we're pushing because it's a major issue and we want to do something about it, but you can also use it for other protective type situations as well.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
It's deep.
That is awesome, guys. So I want to thank you guys for coming on and talking about these issues. Torrance, like I told Maria, as much as I'm against police brutality, and I definitely do not like a lot of the things that I've seen, I've never had the opportunity to talk to a police officer and just get an idea of how they feel and what's going on. So I think it was really important that I was able to talk to you about it today. I'm going to continue to talk about you guys' app. I'm going to support it myself. I'm going to continue to tell anybody who supports me about it, because like I said, everything that we're going through, if everybody took this attitude and said, I'm going to do something to make a difference and change these issues, even if it's starting with, respecting myself and respecting the person next to me, whatever it is. But I think we all need to move to more action-based maneuvers instead of just talking about it or instead of just being outraged. So I take my hat off to you guys for
Thank you.
starting this app. I want you guys to tell everybody out there, how can they support you guys if they wanted to?
Okay, first of all, they can go to rightthereprotect.com. That's our website. That's our pre-launch website. And just, if they want to just follow us as well as our progress when we actually launch, they can say they want to do that. They can just go to the website. Or if they want to be an investor, we are a private corporation, so we have shares available. They can be a part of their own wealth building, and something that they believe in. When they talk about investing, they say always invest in something that you believe in. They can invest. All they have to do is just give us their email address, their name, we'll respond, and we'll get with them and give them the information to invest. Now, they also can donate. This is something that our corporate attorney told us about. They can donate to the cause, whether they want to give 10, 20, whatever. And it's not tax deductible, but it will help us to get to where we need to go. Definitely. And we're going to get there together, y'all. It's about building the community. This is one way of building our community.
Yes, it is.
And so, yes, that's what we need their support in. Just, those three things again, supporting us through just going to our website and say, I want to know about you. I want to know more. I want to follow you. Second thing is investing. And then if you don't want to invest, then just, donating. So we want to get it done. And as soon as we get this part done, the sooner we can go to the market with our app.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you guys for coming on today. Everybody listening to the podcast, please make it your business to check out the rightthereprotect.com. They're on Instagram as well, under Right There Protect. Under Right There Corp. They're on Facebook, yes, Twitter, Instagram, under Right There Corp. The website is rightthereprotect.com. That's the pre-launch website, like she said. Please go out and support them, man. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. People in our community need to figure out ways to have productive dialogue with people that look like you, regardless of what the topic is. We need to be able to come in a room together and speak to each other respectfully and come to some resolution, whatever that may be. And I just like the fact that I'm able to bring people on who are trying to do stuff to benefit our community. Again, with all the complaining, with all of the social media rhetoric that we're bombarded with, to get in contact with people who are really trying to make a difference is a blessing to me. So I thank everybody for tuning in today. It's been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. You can find the podcast on my YouTube channel, which is Melanated Fathers TV. You can find the podcast on Spotify under the Melanated Convo podcast. If you have the Anchor FM app, you can find the podcast there as well. You can find it on the website also, which is melanatedfathers.com. I'm going to continue to do this work for our community. You guys, we out.
All right. Thank you.